Ashley.
No problem.
First question, can you tell me a little bit about your character you're portraying?
Absolutely. I play Margot Frank. She is the older sister of Anne Frank and the daughter of Edith and Otto Frank. If I would describe her, I would say she's super intelligent, she's kind, and she's very caring.
I am playing Anne Frank, younger sister of Margot Frank and daughter of Edith Frank and Otto Frank. If I had to describe Anne Frank, I'd say she's feisty, cheeky, really strong, opinionated in the best way possible, loving, and loyal.
Oh, that's great to hear. That's great to hear. And with the story, did you guys have to do any type of research for your roles?
Absolutely. First thing that I did was I read Meep's account, which was Anne Frank Remembered. I read that during the audition process. And then I had the Anne Frank diary in my room since I was a little kid. I don't think I actually ever read through the whole thing, but when I was going through the audition process and getting the role and starting to, get into Margot's head, I obviously read that over multiple times, but also taking it into account that these are other people's perspectives of Margot. I found that every time I looked Margot up online, there was always just very, she would be described very concisely as if she was not a real person. I don't know if that makes sense, but when I was trying to portray her, I was trying to find ways of, bringing her own perspective in it. And something I always think about is that Margot really did have her own diary. And if we had that today, what would she have said? And so part of my process was actually writing out a few, through Anne's diary, I took a few pages, but would write my own perspective of what was going on in the annex.
For me, yes, I researched. I audiobooked a diary, which I audiobooked it a couple of times. I also had her diary, but I never read it before. So I was I did this during the audition process, and I thought I knew Anne. Everybody thinks they know Anne, the innocent girl who unfortunately had to hide in World War II and passed away, which is not really correct in the factual sense, yes, but I never knew Anne Frank. I never knew her character. And when I first got the scripts from A Small Light, I was amazed and shocked. And I was like, oh, who is this? I've got to audiobook it. So I audiobooked it, went through all different pages of the diary over and over again, really trying to get into her brain. I decided to not read Meep's book or watch anybody else's portrayal of Anne. I wanted it to be my own, and I didn't want different perspectives of Anne to influence me. I wanted to just be my version of Anne as pure as possible.
Oh, that's great to hear. That's great. There's so much information out there, just absorbing it. It's just trying to narrow it down. That's awesome. That's awesome. So I was wondering, the story's very powerful. Was there an emotional scene would you like to talk about?
I think the opening scene, straight away for me, the opening scene was my second day on set. And it's when they decide to send Margot away to the annex first, and it's that whole scene for me. Anne at that point wasn't upset; she was just very panicked within herself, and it's a very stressful moment because you do not know if your older sister is going to go and die or be shot or taken to a concentration camp. Those are very real thoughts, and definitely as Anne, she was 13 at that time. It's something very hard to deal with, and it's not a normal thing to deal with. So I really had to prepare myself for that scene and try to envision my sister as much as I could, because my sister's the same age gap as Margot and Anne were, which I thought was a good thing to draw on. So I kept having to picture how I felt when she left uni or anything like that, trying to just draw of all these emotions so I could do it. And once I had that, and I was on set and I could click it on, it's really overwhelming. It's like 200 emotions just hitting you at once. And it's just, you come out the day, and that was a long day as well, because we did another emotional scene straight after that. You just go, wow, they never had time to breathe. They never had time during that moment to have a couple of days to probably think about sending Margot away. It was all happening very, 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 very fast, with a lot of stakes and a lot of emotions. So even coming off that day of betraying just a small aspect of that day, of like the day they really had, was just eye-opening. It really was eye-opening.
For me, my first day of filming was the checkpoint scene. So I was really thrown into it. But what was really amazing about this cast is that we had pre-production. So we were allowed to build those connections before we got onto set. And I think that they just created a really comfortable environment. And for actors, that's where we thrive, is when we're, given the space to do what we have to do. And I think that moment of fear when they're going past the checkpoint was definitely, it was a tough day for me, because thinking about it in reality and how scared people really were at that time, I just kept having to like step into their shoes and really try and put myself in their place, even though I haven't had that experience. So I think that being able to have that comfortable environment allowed me to be able to get there easily, though. Yeah.
Those are powerful, it's something you don't experience much,
Yeah.
So, and last question, what do you want audience to experience when they first watch it?
Oh, I think that this story is just so important, especially now. And I hope that it, goes into classrooms, actually. And we were just talking about this with someone else about the importance of showing it to our younger generation, as, Holocaust survivors are, they're not going to be able to keep telling their stories as they're, as we keep going on. So it's so important to hold on to these stories. And I think when I was first, looking into Margot and everything, I saw this TikTok video where they were asking people, what is the Holocaust? And a lot of people didn't know, or they would say something about it being about children or something that wasn't completely right. And so I thought, that's so fascinating, because you'd think that a lot of people would know the Holocaust. You'd think a lot of people would know Anne Frank, but there are still people that, need to hear these stories. And I think bringing a small light to a platform like Disney Plus and Hulu, and I hope that it gets in the right hands of people that need to watch this content. Yeah.
I completely blanked on the question.
But what do you want fans to experience when they first watch it?
Yes. To build on that, we are actually the last generation to have Holocaust survivors. So after this generation, there are no more. And I really want this series, and I think it is a timeless series that people can then rewatch or show other people and tell the story of not just Anne Frank, because there are a lot of stuff on Anne Frank, but of Meep. That story has never been told properly. And I'm so glad that it has, and I really want people to watch the series and take away a different perspective of the Anne Frank story and of the World War II story of a protector, somebody that's not Jewish, somebody that went through so much trauma and hardship in her life at such a young age and be able to survive it. And I want people to watch that and think, this 23-year-old did all of this. I can then do anything. I can have that hope. I can make other people's lives better. My life, yes, might be hard at this point, but I can always overcome it, and I can always put my best foot forward. And I really, really, really want people to take that away. I want them to take away that there is always hope, and there's always something good for you to do, and you shouldn't go into a different aspect of your life where it's just dark. There will always be some light. You just have to find it.
And also, just as a young woman and seeing this inspiring story of me, it makes me think, how can I stand up in my society right now, and what can we do? And especially like as actresses, telling stories like this is what's so important to me. So
and sorry, a little build on that. It's just exactly what you said, to like build forward and take on board and trying to change the world. It's that Disney Plus and Nat Geo have done that now. That this is what their choice was, to create the story and allow it to be told. So they've put their best foot forward to educate other people. And I think if big platforms like that can do, anybody can.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Y'all, thank you for the time today.
Thank you so much.
Y'all have a wonderful day.
You too. You too.
You too.
Thank you.